Facebook land. We are live. To edit. And we are public. Done. Save. You're more than welcome to go on my Facebook if you'd like and share it off into your world.
Awesome. I definitely will.
Perfect. And it looks like we're live on YouTube as well. So that's nice.
All right.
And we'll get Calico in the house, my lovely selfless moderator. Okay. Hi, everyone. It's Casey from Pine Case. This evening, I am joined with Jamie Gibb. Jamie Gibb, is that correct?
That is correct.
You know what's so funny is I was adding like all the things to Facebook, tagging, whatever, and then today I was like casually sipping coffee and seeing your comment where you're like,
This is my active account. Yeah.
yeah, hey friend. I was like, oh my God, yeah, right. Like,
I lost access to that old Facebook account ages ago. And
mm.
so I had to make a new one. And yeah, it happens quite often. So
So funny. I started this Facebook account. I kind of thieved it actually from like an old friend. And we used to use it for like all sorts of like really shady stuff. It had like some weird name on it. Like if you look in my link, it actually says Miles Deep, and everyone's like, "What is that about?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it."
don't worry about it.
Yeah, not a big deal. And so when people are like looking me up, they're like, "You had like a whole other life before this Facebook account." I'm like, "Yes, yes, I did."
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't scroll too far.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to know, don't ask, don't tell, just leave it alone. So funny. Calico's like, you know that you have a like someone thieved up your stuff and like copied your account. And I was like, that's okay. She's like, no, we should totally make a post about it. I'm like, I totally don't really want people searching. So
Oh, that's funny.
too much, too much. So, my darling, how are you and what have you been up to?
I am doing quite well. Right now, I'm getting ready for the summer. The sun is back and it's wonderful, and
Mm.
I am getting ready for a fun-filled summer. Yeah,
Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah, festival season opened up with a bang. There are
it
so many
did.
crazy things happening. I was like, what in so for us in whereabouts are you? Because I'm over in Alberta. Are you in BC?
I'm in Vancouver.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, we're starting our summer with Decimate Metal Fest. Which one do you have a festival that's like that you're like specific to for June or
Not really, honestly, like, my festival season is a little lighter than it used to be. I
okay.
used to do at least, like, 6 or 7 per season, and now usually I'll just do 1 or 2.
Okay.
And so I'll usually do Shambhala, and I'm thinking about
Mm,
doing Base Coast this year.
nice.
But yeah.
Oh, that's so much fun. What is it that do you think that draws everyone to Shambhala? I haven't been yet. I should
Yeah.
not admit that on the internet, but what is it that's such a massive draw? Because it really is like everybody's staple, I feel.
For sure. I mean, it's so long running. It's been running for so long. It's got a reputation, and
Mm,
so it lives up to it. I'll be totally honest. I've always had such a nice time every year. This if I do end up going this year because it is on the fence.
mm.
It'll be my 15th year going. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I've been going since I was a wee little baby.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. I that's amazing. I was never really much of like the festival scene. I shouldn't it's not that it wasn't my scene, but I was like a theater rat, right? So it was like indoors, everyone on like their way up and their way back down. That was kind of like where I was at when it came to like living the dream in the music land. Do you have a festival that's like your favorite?
My favorite. Oh, I've been to a lot. I've been to a lot. I
Mm,
think honestly, in the last little while is Future Forest in New Brunswick. I
oh,
got flown out to do video content there with a company called Rebel Cause Films. And I got to do some really amazing stuff. And it was just such an interesting experience. It felt like old festivals that I went to when I was a teenager with
Mm.
kind of like the new school vibes to it. It was so much fun. There were so many different things to do. There were so many workshops. Yeah, can't say enough good things about it.
Oh, that's so wonderful. It's amazing how the festival scene kind of just naturally adopted what it means to be inclusive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really because I don't think that there's more of a scene that was kind of outside of maybe like the LGBTQ plus community that really adopted it as quickly. Right? I mean, when everything, not that I should say when everything was happening, because things have always kind of been happening, but that was just like it seemed like a natural progression for everybody to really
Well,
celebrate.
oh, sorry. Absolutely. I grew up in a small town on the island, and I was closeted, and I always knew that
Mm.
I was queer, and as did most of the people around me. And being in the rave scene as a teenager, it was such an inclusive place. It did make me feel so at home, and like I could be myself. And so it was very wonderful seeing the progression, seeing kind of queer artists come to the forefront in these spaces because we've always kind of been there. And so, yeah.
That's so exciting. I noticed that even the ones that don't really market themselves as like as inclusive utilize even the kings and queens like as a
Mhm.
way of having somebody to be like the point person, to have somebody that's like the spokesperson, the face of. It's crazy because I'm like,
Absolutely.
right? It's so awesome. I'm like, that's really interesting because it was maybe not necessarily a festival that you would like necessarily see that, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, no, no. Not only is it like all is it inclusive, but we're actually going to like have that person absolutely like moderate the whole situation. So it's so nice.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Yeah. So which festivals? Sorry, pardon. I'm just looking at Calico. She said yes, Rebel Cause Films. Oh, that's so fun.
Mhm.
So how do you know Calico? Was she like a friend through the festival scene as well? Because she is also like a fierce advocate right now in a few different communities.
Absolutely. Calico and I have known each other since I was a teenager. I was quite young,
Mm.
and we came up in the rave scene together on Vancouver Island. And Calico always kept me safe.
Oh,
Calico was always one of my favorite people, and we've remained friends over the years. God, I think it's been like 20 years that we've known each other now. I'm just doing the math on that one, and I was like, oh, old, 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 old. But yeah.
oh, that's so fun. Yeah, she jumped on board today. We were having some, I shouldn't say challenges, because with negative comments come an opportunity to learn. So I'll paint a picture for you. The festival that I'm speaking towards is, it lends itself to the metal community, which is great. It's something that I think is super, super important because it's I don't want to say that you know, class or rank or anything like have that to do, but metal is a place where a lot of people call home. Today, when we were talking about it, a few people jumped on and had some negative things to say about the drag scene, and it was absolutely heartbreaking for obviously like a few different reasons. But what I think people don't understand is exactly what we're saying. Like festivals um, without trying are inclusive,
Mhm.
and the metal community itself already like they back in the day had to kind of push to the forefront for promotions and bookings and things like that, so it was kind of surprising when I seen the negativity surrounding it, but Calico jumped in there like a warrior and kind of painted not painted, she put it out there like, well, what else would we be doing? Like it's for lack of a better term, it's just entertainment. Like we can bring the politics into it, and we
Yeah.
can bring, lifestyle into it, and we can bring opinion into it. But at the end of the day, sometimes we need to like remove those things and just appreciate it for the art of entertainment. Like, what would you agree with that?
completely agree with that. So, I mean, as of late, like I grew up in the rave scene. I've been going to raves and festivals for 20 years. And then in the last like 10 or 15 years, I've also been really, really immersed in the drag scene.
Mhm.
And so I was doing technical work for drag before it was very, very popular. And I've watched all of those scenes come together, and I've watched the public reaction to them become so strange because drag isn't new. Drag isn't new at all. It's been around forever. It's I've always known some sort of drag in my life in entertainment. And so I'm not sure where this idea that it's so harmful has come from in the last 3 to 4 years, when we have movies like Mrs. Doubtfire and Tootsie and Tu Wong Fu that are loved across the board by so many different communities, and I'm like, that's drag. So why are
Mhm.
you mad? It's yeah,
Mhm.
it's always been very interesting to me.
Even in Shakespearean time,
Yeah.
drag was a thing because it wasn't it wasn't proper to have a female as an actor or an actress, pardon
Mhm.
me. And so drag means dressed like
Yeah.
um
Dressed,
sorry,
dressed as a girl.
yeah,
There's a lot of kind of like back and forth on what it actually means.
right,
But I
okay.
think, yeah, it definitely, yeah, it originated there. I also brag, I have a degree in theater history. And
Oh, do
so
you?
that, yeah, I was a theater child, into a rave baby, into the drag scene. And now they've
Oh,
all kind
that's
of converged in a nice way.
yeah. Oh, that's so wonderful. Do you think with the okay, and I'm being a little bit political, and you absolutely can tell me to like where to go and how to get there. But I'm going to be the devil's advocate just a little bit because I really think it's important that people understand exactly what's happening. And sometimes you got to ruffle feathers to kind of get people there. But is it fair to assume that because the community right now there's a little bit of division there, that kind of lends to some of the negativity? Or do you think that these opinions are like sold, tested, and true coming up from just like pure ignorance? Because I've actually been in balls deep into Drag Race lately, which is nothing new. I always like go back to it, but I've noticed that as it's gone on, there's been like a lot of change in like language and terms and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And with all of that kind of comes like a bigger conversation. And when people don't know how to even go about it, sometimes people kind of push back. Do you think that that might be part of the reason why we haven't seemed to kind of get um, forward with it lately?
Absolutely. Well, I think a lot of the time, yeah, the call is coming from inside the house.
Mm,
The division within our community it stems from not feeling important. And I
yes.
think that when we prioritize changing language to remain inclusive and to actually like progress with the times, it makes the people who were once marginalized more
Mm,
into sort of like, oh well, now you think you're better than me, you have like you think that you're more important than me. And it's like this, it's not pie. When you take some, when you give some to somebody else, it doesn't mean there's less for everyone else. And so I think the push to inclusive language in the, especially in the drag scene, especially in the queer scene, has been met with pushback because um hmm, how do I say this without being controversial? Um, Gay men don't like being told that they should gay men don't like being
say it,
told
baby.
that they have more rights than everyone else, or they
Mm,
have more rights than they think. And
yeah,
I say that as a gay man.
yeah,
Um, and so I think a lot of the pushback is from like just not feeling othered in a community that used to be just for them.
yeah. That's I think that needs to be said again, and louder. Like it's so important, and that's exactly how I was feeling with this with metal with this metal music, and not to compare the two because this is not the same thing, but I was thinking like for a group of people who have always kind of felt less than, it's not popular music, it's not being pushed to the forefront, it's not being honored in things like the Grammys and this and that, is it really isn't. Is this them kind of saying the same thing, like, wait a second, now we have another group of people coming in and trying to take over, and I can appreciate it for that. But if they would just realize that we're all in this together, and it's all, if we all just stand together, we can actually advertise and promote each other, that ultimately, like, that goes into everything from just hugging to ticket sales to everybody's numbers go up. But unfortunately, because these communities have been hurt, and I use metal in there very, very lightly, but it's still a part of this conversation. Like, if we would all just figure out how to get to the other side, that we could all just start celebrating each other. And I can't wait for that to start happening. Like, it's really unfortunate that that's where we're at,
Church. Yes, absolutely.
Whew. Been waiting all day to get that off my chest. I'm just like, what is happening? Like, why can't we all just be like, what, like, and like as a Black female, I'm not new to this topic. It's so frustrating. I took my first real job from a middle-aged white guy in a 3-piece suit, and everyone had something to say about it, that I couldn't do the job, that this was ridiculous, that it was unfair. And I'm like, the guy is 75 years old, like, he's trying to retire, like, what?
Oh my goodness.
Like, what does it matter?
Yeah,
And
really
it's just
though.
like, seriously. And now that I'm stepping back into the scene, I'm like, the conversation hasn't changed at all. Like, at all. We're still here. Like,
It's
holy
crazy.
crap. Oh my gosh. Anyways. Okay. So how do we get out of here? Like, how do we move forward? What are things that we need to do to like get past this? Do I meet this with like negativity and be like, this is what we should be doing? Do we highlight these conversations? Do we tuck tail and allow people to just like hate themselves into the corner? Like,
It is so difficult to say, because it all kind of depends on from where I stand.
Mm.
Conversations are happening in two camps. One of them is conversations with like actual conversations, somebody explaining information and trying to get a point across so that we can reach that other side. And then the other conversations that are seeming to be happening is well-meaning people yelling at walls. They're yelling at people who don't want to hear what they're saying. They just want to be mad. And I think that in those cases, still having the conversation is good, because it gives a perspective to perhaps people seeing from the outside, not exactly the person that you're having the conversation with directly, but
Mm.
the people who are reading that conversation over Facebook, over Instagram, over Twitter, or something like that. It's for an external audience to be like, oh, wait, that makes a lot of sense. And so I think
Mm.
the conversations still need to be had, but I think that we need to start weeding out bad faith conversations. Like,
Ah.
why are we entertaining bigotry so that we can get a point across to somebody who has long since made their mind up about that point? And instead pivot the resources, pivot the energy that we have into strengthening the community that wants to be there.
Yes. Oh, that is, yeah, absolutely. I forgot about what the outsiders see. Like, people can go ahead and comment, and people can comment back, but the reality is that there's still other people watching this happen that are, maybe potentially, if I mean, it's music. This is exactly why I'm in music and mental health, because they seem to go hand in hand so beautifully. But people that are on the outside that might, one, be looking to maybe pick up a guitar, or two, be looking to like have a bigger conversation about themselves with somebody else. Like, both of these things are. I didn't even really acknowledge the fact that there is an audience to some of this. I was too in it to kind of like pull myself out and be like, wait a second.
Absolutely. And that happens. That happens so often, is that you're trying to get your point across to the person that you're talking to, and you kind of forget about the outside eyes that might be appreciating what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I guess when there's like these negative situations happening, it really could prevent people. It really could prevent people from having the positive conversation that they need to have, or feel like, why bother why, not why bother, but maybe it's just not a safe place. We're
Mhm.
trying to promote inclusiveness, but way before being inclusive, we also just need to be safe. And that's,
Exactly.
mhm.
And I think that's where, like, the line needs to be drawn with, like, "Oh, everybody gets a voice." You know, I don't actually I think we need to revisit that a little bit because not everyone's voice matters in context. And so trying to prioritize people who are like who vehemently hate a
Mm,
community of people and they want to make that known. Sure, you can make that known, but you don't have to give them the platform. You don't
right.
have to give them the smoke. Like you can just be like, "Okay, you can do that over there." And once again reprioritize into building, because like when you build a strong community, people flock to it, people gravitate towards it. And I
Mhm.
think rather than being what some people call the tolerant left, I think we need to start being a little bit more militant.
Mm.
Like we need to strengthen our numbers, but we need to strengthen our numbers with people who want to be
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. I was like, earlier I was like, why, like, wait a second, we're not taking away from all of this greatness. Like, we're not gonna, and not necessarily to this festival, but just in general. I'm like, why are we holding back on, maybe promoting people to like stop the argument? Like, but you know what? You're kind of right. Maybe pull the wind right out of the argument and then allow for better things on other days, or allow for other things in better spaces. Or yeah, well said. Mm, I'm so glad you're here.
there. I'm so glad I'm here too. This is great.
Growing up in a small community, I'm sure it was really challenging. Was there anything that happened, like, not to make it all about you, but it is all about you. Was there anything, was there any like situations or people or groups that were in your community that allowed you to, kind of be who you were? Or was it like a stereotypical kind of situation where you were you know, you were the one like navigating and teaching the community?
Well, when I was younger, I sort of acquiesced to social pressure, and
Mm,
I didn't live as authentically as I needed to. I was still myself, and I was supported by the people around me, but I knew in my heart that I couldn't be the person that I really was at that moment.
mhm.
And I went with it. And so groups of people would make me feel safe and would make me kind of like progressively come out of my shell more and more and more. And then I think honestly, like I took my final form when I got sober.
Oh,
So I got sober in January of 2020. And so I'm still rocking that
yes,
today. And
yes,
it's
yes.
given me a completely new perspective. I did my first festival completely sober this past summer. Um,
Congratulations.
it's been an amazing learning experience, and I think with that, that's given me really the final push into being like, well, I am just unapologetic now, because like I for so long I used drugs and alcohol to kind of mask where I was in life
Mhm,
and not have the conversations with myself that I needed to have, whether it was about mental health, whether it was about gender identity, whether it was about anything like that. I numbed it. I numbed it down. And so yeah, January of 2020, I was like, I think I'm going to quit drinking for a couple months. And then in March of 2020, I don't know if you remember, but something crazy happened. Um and I was left with a decision. I was like, I could go balls to the wall and just drink my way through this, or I
yeah,
could continue where I'm at and I could sit down with myself and actually have the time to do that for the first
wow,
time in my life. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's do it. And it was rough and it was hard and it was fun
yeah,
and I wouldn't change it a thing.
wow. That's so powerful. I don't think people realize that the conversation with drugs and alcohol and the LGBTQ community is very serious, because a lot of the times that when people can't be authentically themselves, that's what they turn to. And it's I say unfortunate like it's a thing. It's not unfortunate. It's fucking heartbreaking, because not only are people in a situation that, they can't just be themselves, but then on top of that, you have to navigate, being in a quote unquote addict. And so for you to, just knock both of them right out is just that's a massive thing to do. And I'm extremely impressed. So congratulations. That's really
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank
You're
you.
more than welcome. You are more than welcome. Can you explain to me, as if I knew absolutely nothing, what it means to, so as we, as the whole world kind of took on the terminology and the language, and I really want to use this time to navigate it for not only some of my followers, but my family and friends, because some of them don't understand how to use certain words. But so I identify as she, her. Would you mind? Would you mind?
Yeah, of course. So I go by they them.
Mhm.
That's I came out as non-binary in 2017. After having a frank and honest conversation with myself that I have never really felt at home, male or female.
Mhm.
And so I've always existed kind of not even in the middle, but somewhere to the right, like in the corner. And
Mhm.
so I use gender neutral language, but I'm also aware that I present mainly male most of the time, and so I don't really get fussed about pronouns a lot of the time. However, I am a singular person in that, and so
Mhm.
do not take that general public as
Yeah.
a guide.
Yeah.
Because I
Well
might
said.
not care about my pronouns, but pronouns are incredibly important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's just respect. I mean,
Clear.
um depending, it doesn't matter what people's opinion are. Like it's
Mhm.
and that's what I think people get hung up on. They're like, well, in my opinion, well, it actually doesn't matter.
No.
Like it doesn't really it just doesn't matter. Like your opinion is irrelevant. And it's not even a matter of like, being right or wrong or any of that. It's just being respectful. And that's what it
Exactly.
comes down to. It's not to challenge, the norm or science or religion or people's perspective or anything. It's just being respectful. I don't understand why or where that conversation got confused.
Yeah.
Because historically, this is nothing new. Just
No,
like
I
drag,
know.
this conversation is nothing new. I don't know why.
Seriously.
it
And
goes it goes
especially
back
in
since
like
the dawn of time.
indigenous communities have been recognizing two-spirit identities for literally way before we came in and started messing things up. And
Yeah,
so I don't particularly understand why we're back here having this conversation when if I was around 500 years ago, I would have been some sort of god. But no.
honored. Yeah.
Hello. I am.
Well, you are, but
Well, I am.
yeah,
But
you
yeah, no,
know.
and so I think it's important to acknowledge that this conversation isn't new, but it's important to acknowledge that the conversation has turned with social media. I think social media has made this conversation so much more public.
Yeah,
And so we're all witnessing in real time people reacting to a community that they might not have ever been in contact with. And I know
that's
that
right.
like my friends and family have come leaps and bounds since I
Yeah,
came out, and I I didn't have to yell at them. I didn't have to be mean to them. I literally just I kind of had to hold their hand a little bit, but that's okay. I'm okay
yeah.
with that. Because they're my family and I love them. But I think one of my favorite things about this journey has been being able to learn how to teach people.
Yeah.
Because people don't react well to being yelled at a lot of the time.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I know you're right. You know what is interesting? You said something that I don't know if you even realized how important it was, and that's um, when people are coming out and they have to have these conversations with their loved ones. So they don't have to, but it's definitely like a rite of passage, so to speak. Um, it's important for them to feel obviously supported, and there's a whole plethora of reasons why. But what's interesting is that actually on the flip side of that, uh, it's important for them to come out for people like me because that extends the conversation. So, once upon a time, when not that long ago, when people are like, it's important for me, to feel, valid, and it's important. Yeah, of course. The fact that we have to come out is actually quite disgusting because it should just be life.
Yep.
But but like, thank goodness for it in some sort of ways because we make such a big deal about it, whether it's for a negative or positive. It's actually quite a great educational tool, and it's, if it's used properly, it's a great way to start the conversation, right? So every child in their bravery or young adult or whatever really does educate their family. I mean, it's kind of like their closest confidants, and then from there, it seems like the world, or the word part of me, kind of spreads a little bit more. Like, I'm sure your parents, if it wasn't something that they were used to, all of a sudden, if your mom's getting her hair done, she's having the conversation with her hairdresser, or the lady in the chair next to it's listening to it or whatever. And so as everyone starts having these conversations, it really does create like a big blanket network a lot quicker than it would
Absolutely.
if we didn't kind of ceremonial have these situations. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, at some point, I would love to get to a place where people don't have to come out and make a huge
Yeah,
deal about it, but
of
we're not
course.
there. We're not there. We
No.
are absolutely not there as a society right now. So I fully, like, I I loved coming out so much I did it twice. Because I came out as queer when I was 21, and then
Right.
again as non-binary when I was 25. And so
Um,
yeah, I mean, the queer one was basically just being like, "Mom, I'm gay." And my mom goes, "Uh-huh, yeah, we know." Um,
God love
you
mom.
just graduated from theater school. It was really not a surprise.
Oh, that's so true. Yes, that's so true. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. Oh, excuse me for just one second here. Yeah, yeah, we're not here. My goal always, like, when people ask me like what I see for a future, I'm like, the goal is to just not give a shit,
Yeah,
because I get asked a lot like, well, what is your, what's your feelings about Black Lives Matter? And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it matters. Of course it matters. We matter, everybody matters, but
yeah,
the goal is to just not give a shit.
yeah,
Like the day that everyone just stops worrying about what everybody else is doing, unfortunately, the only way to get there is to push things way past, to
and then
just kind of
course
level. Yeah.
correct.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. You really got to knock it out there in order for it to kind of level out. So, good for you for being part of the good fight. You definitely have an ally over here. Um, I was the the community was kind of forced on me in a really loving way, and I'm so forever grateful. I started a company in Edmonton on Jasper Avenue.
mhm,
It was a cell phone repair store, and a customer came in, Chris, and asked me out on a date to a wedding, and I was like, oh, sure, why not? I'm not doing anything. It's kind of new to Edmonton, whatever. And Chris picked me up as Cynthia, and obviously, like, I'm in the car now, what am I going to say? Like, and to
yeah.
be honest, I wouldn't have gotten out of the car anyways. I was just kind of like, well, you could have said something, like, but at the but at the same time, like, why should she? Like,
Mhm.
why should she? And I was like, okay. So we're driving, and I was just like, fuck, you're beautiful. Like, Cynthia, what the heck? Like, this is crazy. And so we went to this wedding, and it was the most progressive thing that I have ever been involved in. Like, both bride and groom, one was pre-op and one was post-op.
Mhm.
And so they were legally getting married as lesbians. And like, what a cool fucking thing. Like, pardon my language, but I was like, this is incredible. Like, I didn't even know this kind of stuff was possible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know. Like, it was just legal to get married as gay, and now you have someone, both who, are transitioning, um and they're getting married as be like, there was just so much happening that I was like, I'm so fucking honored to be part of the celebration, that in my glass of wine, I decided that I needed to, like, get up and give a huge speech.
Oh. Oh, that's amazing.
Which I don't think I really stood up to, like, Cher and freaking Tina Turner, but I was just so taken by the whole situation. It was just amazing. And that was my introduction to all things in that community. And you know what? They never questioned who I was. And so why in the heck would I question them? And that was how it started, and that is how it'll always be in my life. Yeah.
Warms my heart.
Yeah. Ah, so what do you have going on? What's happening in your world?
Speaking of drag, I am going
Mm.
to Los Angeles in July for RuPaul's Drag Con. I am so excited. I am
Yay.
flying out and I'm staying there for a week, and I'm going to go see a bunch of drag shows, and I'm going to meet a bunch of my
Oh,
internet friends, and I'm really really excited. I've become close online with some of the entertainers from RuPaul's Drag Race, and so I'm really excited to connect with them, and
excuse
yeah,
me.
yeah.
That is so fun.
Yeah, I'm really
Oh,
excited.
it's so fun. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. There's a couple
Yeah,
that I would just absolutely love to meet.
for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy. So we have Birthday Girl is actually going to be hosting for us at Decimate Metal Fest, and I haven't met Birthday Girl yet, but I'm super excited to see how that all plays out. I was checking her out actually just before this to see, but the Campbell River drag scene is really interesting because it doesn't get as much love, or it didn't get as much love, obviously,
Yeah.
with RuPaul's Drag Race. That was such a massive thing, and at the beginning it was really based on like the American side of things, which is, they're always ahead of everything anyways. I mean, we do it better, but they, are
Yep.
kind of like first to the forefront. So they definitely spend a lot more money in their entertainment scene. But I'm so excited that not only did they get, like, I think we're at season 4 with Canada, plus the Canada versus the world, right?
Oh, which
Yeah.
there's another season of that coming.
No.
Yeah. So it's
Oh,
all
is
wrapped
that the
it's all wrapped and filmed. And so we'll be getting a cast in the next couple months.
no.
Yeah.
Did I just get an exclusive?
Oh. Yeah,
Oh, it's so
I'm really
fun.
excited for that to come around. I'm so like
No.
honestly, Canadian drag is unmatched. It is.
Yeah.
I've gone right across the country seeing artists and entertainers perform kings, queens, things across the board. Like, ugh.
Yes.
And like, there's just some really amazing, like, I feel very honored. The current reigning winner of Canada's Drag Race is a Vancouver queen.
Mhm.
And so we get to see her perform all the time, and it's very nice.
That's so fun. I was just a quick kiki. Like, were you not gagged when Kendall Jenner got like voted off
Yes.
first
I
on freaking Canada versus the world? I was like, hey, wait, what?
I have been
Because
watching Kendall perform for a decade. Like, Kendall is my girl. And so when I heard she was going to be on the season, I was like, "Oh my god, like top 4, let's go. You're going to get your
yes,
redemption. Let's go." And so to see that when she got voted off first, I was like, "This is crazy. This is crazy." Yeah,
I'm
I
so
was gagged. Gagged.
I'm
Ooh,
so glad I'm not alone in this, because honestly, I like dropped my coffee and was like, wait, what just happened? What just happened? This
yeah.
can't be right, because like she crushed it in her season, crushed it. I thought for sure she was gonna win. I was like all for Kendall.
Mhm.
And then yeah, just like you, I'm like, here we go. Here
Yeah.
we go. Mind you, she's evolved a little bit. I was like,
She
okay.
has. And from what I remember her doing an interview after the show, and I guess she was an alternate, and she got called out like 3 days before they started filming. And so she
Oh,
had literally like 72 hours to put together a package. And so from what I saw, I'm like, man, that's impressive. Hi,
okay.
Drew.
Okay, that makes a little bit of sense, because I was like, what is happening here? Like, this
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. But yeah, okay, putting all that in perspective, like, that's totally fair.
Mhm.
Hmm. I don't think we've seen the last of Kendall Jenner. I think that
Mm.
we will definitely be seeing like a lot. You know how Rue does, and then all of a sudden they become like a big, personality for whatever
Jujubee has been
situation,
on
TV.
18 seasons at this point.
Yeah, Like
Like
seriously.
it's gonna be Jujubee versus the world, just like different
It's
iterations of Jujubee.
100%. That's every time I hear her name, I'm like, what the fuck? Really?
What are you doing here?
Like, you had stocks
Amazing.
in this shit? Like, what's happening? Oh, that's so funny. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I once upon a time when I worked at a theater on Vancouver Island, we had story time, like pardon me, what is that called now? I can't remember.
Drag
Why
story
can't I remember?
hour.
Thank you very much. Yeah, at the
Yeah.
library. Yeah, and it was so cool because I lived in like this small backwoods redneck town, and everyone was like just disgusted that I had, helped paint the first rainbow crosswalk and la 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 la. They like tried to destroy it by like,
Throwing
doing
paint on
freaking
it, right?
yeah, and like,
Yeah.
doing burnouts on it and all sorts of stuff. And we're just like, whatever. So we just painted it again and like whatever.
Yeah.
You're not gonna bring us down. You know what ended up happening was all the attention came to us, all the communities around us band together, and we ended up putting like the mayor came forth and was like, we're actually gonna like fly the pride flag like at City Hall. Like we're definitely gonna stand in unity with this situation and stuff. And but yeah, it was Vancouver Peach Cobbla who came over and celebrated with us. So
Yay.
yeah, it was really
A
awesome.
legend.
It's an absolute legend. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's so fun. Um, Crazy. And then when the Kings came into the situation too, because when Queens, Kings, and Things became a thing, like that really
Mhm.
wasn't before, right? I mean, there's Kings of
Well, I
no,
mean,
sorry.
so as somebody I started doing like tech for drag shows in like the
Yes.
early 2000s before Drag Race and everything like that. And even then
Yeah.
we had drag kings in there. And so they've become more of like a larger conversation now.
Right.
But and I am so happy about that because I swear some of the kings that I know have some of the craziest artistry that I've ever seen. Like, how do you paint your face like that? That's crazy. Um, why do you look like George Michael right now? I know you. Um, and so it's amazing to see the conversation kind of shifting to include everybody because like
Yeah.
gender bending drag has been a thing for decades. Like that's how RuPaul started.
Hmm.
RuPaul was in a punk band and would just do like kind of like gender. I can swear on here, right?
Of course. Yeah.
Gender,
Yeah.
yeah. So doing like gender fuck illusions, and
Yeah.
then moved into more like traditional drag later on. And that's why I'm so happy to have this kind of like light shining down on this community. Now get them on
You
the
bring.
show.
You know what? You just as you're saying this, I'm like, RuPaul was in a fucking punk band.
Yeah,
Wait a second.
yeah.
And we have like and here sorry sorry, I
No
might have a
worries.
secret off camera. um he's about 8 weeks old and he's pretty cute.
Oh.
So I'm like multitasking a little bit, but that's so interesting. I think I might actually put a bunch of that content up today because I think like before I jumped on here tonight, I was like fighting metalheads and I completely forgot.
Yeah.
Like here I am, like there's such similar communities and blah blah blah. Why is everyone all freaking out? But you know what? Like it is, if you take the politics out of it and the yeah, if you just take the politics out of it and just merely look at the entertainment part of it, the history has so much crossover, you know?
Absolutely. Twisted
It's
Sister, Kiss. Like
yes,
we've had dudes in makeup doing rock band
forever.
stuff for a really long time. Now you're mad
Yeah,
because some of
Motley
them are gay.
Crue, Guns N' Roses. I mean, everybody had
100%.
the hair, the situation, a
The
little bit of
eyeliner,
eyeliner.
just like the thick coal, like running eyeliner is crazy. Like you're in drag, mama.
Totally.
You are
You are in
in drag.
full drag. Yeah, your ripped jeans and your freaking like I've never seen no community has more fishnet than metal, period. Like
Hello.
no, yeah.
Exactly.
Mm,
Exactly.
yes. Yeah, no, you're totally right. You're absolutely right. And you're not wrong about the Kings either, because that is a whole art form that like I mean I can barely get on like a good foundation, so I'm
Yeah.
not one to even like have an opinion about makeup at all. But yeah, it is absolutely crazy. Like and the fun part, I don't know like if I'm speaking on this properly, but the fun kind of part about the queens obviously have these like elaborate kind of campy situations, but the fun part about the king specifically is the gender bending part of it, I think, because and I feel like moving forward, sorry, I'm making this all about me. Moving forward, when I start introducing people to it, I think I might actually start with the kings
Oh yeah.
because it's a little bit more like, not that it's an easier pill to swallow, but it's actually people. Oh, sorry. I'm like having a revolution over here. It just freaking dawned on me that like if people don't know what they're looking at and they start appreciating it, that might be the way to go to then like yeah, you guys already that whole community already has it figured out. It's the rest of us that need to like get our shit together.
Put the pill in a piece of cheese.
Yes, yes. Yeah, exactly. Like,
You can't get mad. You
yeah.
already had it.
You're like, yes, sis. We've been doing it for a while. What are you talking about? Oh my god, that's so
Oh my goodness.
and I don't know why I feel like it's my responsibility, but honestly, it's so frustrating because I just don't think that it should even be happening on like, you know,
Well,
when
it
it's
might
just
not be your responsibility, but on behalf of the community, we're all real tired of doing it. And so it's so nice to have advocates that are not within our own community because a lot of the time people see us talking about our rights and then being like, oh, you're just being hysterical.
mm,
You're speaking from a place of hurt, which like, yeah, absolutely I am. Stop hurting me.
yeah, yeah.
And so trying to like move forward with that is it's been interesting, yeah. Oh, Calico.
Yeah. She's so sweet. This is the best conversation. It's the most necessary conversation. I feel like everyone needs to
100%.
like take a time on, you know, on their platforms to really just like to just say some shit. Honestly, like we get so caught up in like what it's supposed to look like and what it's supposed to be. And you know, I was doing some editing earlier today, and there was some really really smart people that I had conversations with earlier or last month, and the theme that kind of stood out to me the most was like um we wait until everything is perfect in order to do things. Like we wait until, you know, the stars align and, you know, your makeup looks great or your shoes, you got the pair of shoes that you wanted to wear before, you know, you're seen or whatever. But ultimately, like you just do it. Like just get on with it, you know, and just do it. And so as I was watching those today, it was like that was like kind of playing in the back of my mind. Like it's just, you know, not that not that we need to just all be on the same, you know, we don't all need to be screaming at the same thing out into the world. We do need to have like the devil's advocate and go back because I think that that's probably the most appropriate way to have conversations, you know. But I definitely am tired of waiting for the right time to do things. And when it comes to advocacy, there is no right or wrong time, but it should
Mm,
just be, you know, a consistent theme throughout everything. Like it just
yeah.
needs, you know, it's Calico says full send. Yeah,
Full
full
set.
for 100. Yeah, just fucking send it. Like,
Exactly.
you know, like it's just time. There's too many hard conversations that aren't being happening. There's too many lives that are being lost because people don't want to talk about it. You know, there's too many things that we have, you know, stigma attached to. I mean, I went through you know, being clean and sober, and I have a hard time calling it that just because I don't count days and I don't like, you know, my thing is like if my DOC isn't hurting anybody, then it's not really anybody's business. But you know, stigma keeps people sick really it keeps people sick forever, and it
Absolutely.
causes situations where people want to, you know, harm themselves or whatever. And when we get into the conversation of like harm reduction and people are like, yo, we need to talk harm reduction, I'm like, we need to talk harm reduction to, you know, reduce harm. Like, yeah, of course, harm reduction means, you know, like a softer version of something. We need to, you know, but ultimately, like, we need to talk harm reduction so that people stop taking themselves out over stuff. Like, I don't mean harm
Exactly.
reduction in drugs, I mean harm reduction in mental health as a whole. Like,
And like,
the
and that's where it starts. Harm reduction starts with things like self-care, and it eventually does move down into things like drug use. And like,
Mhm.
the only way that I was able to get sober myself was to remove the things that were harming me in my life. Is
Yeah.
to make I chose to make myself a life I didn't have to escape from.
Ooh.
And I really I stand on that. I stand in it, and because once I started removing the obstacles that were in my way, I realized I didn't want to do drugs. I didn't want to drink. And
Mhm.
I wanted to experience the moments that I was creating for myself. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, amen to that. That's exactly it. You need to create the space that you want to live in.
Mhm.
It's just what it is. I didn't realize that I had any sort of, well, I mean, I still don't really have any issues, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Um, but yeah, it was like a matter of like realizing that, you just deserve to not compare yourself to other people. You deserve to not feel uncomfortable. You like, those are things that I like. It took me a while to realize like I deserve self-care and self-love. Like I actually deserve it. It's not just a standard. It's like it's
no.
bigger than, yeah. What kind of things do you do to take care of yourself? Like, what kind of things do you do to put yourself first or to make sure that you're staying on track to like put yourself first?
Honestly, like I have little things that I do for myself every day. I take a little bit of every day just for myself. Doesn't matter really what I'm doing. But
Mhm.
I take like 15, 20 minutes, sometimes longer, sometimes a little bit less, just to kind of sit with myself and see if there's anything I need to do. And if there isn't, I usually end up playing video games, which is very nice. And I love playing video
Mhm.
games. Um, but for me, it's not really like taking days for self-care. It's taking care of myself every day.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, you're right. And just the art of like being aware that it needs to happen is part of the process. I think people forget that. Like it's, you know what I mean? Just acknowledging that you need to do that is part of the self-care process. Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes self-care can be bubble baths because sometimes
Yes.
that's what you need.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Sometimes, yeah, exactly. A good bubble bath. You know what? I'm not a smoker, but sometimes like a good fucking cigarette, like,
Yeah.
you know?
It's
Mm,
one of the things, like, I smoked for 15 years, and
yeah.
I vape now, and it's just
Mhm.
not quite the same.
No.
Even 5 years in, I'm like, "A sneaky little cigarette would be nice right now," and I don't. I have the willpower to be like, "No, I don't want that," but it
Yeah.
still enters my mind just like, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, no, I caved 100% the other day. I had this really hectic situation happen with this person that was just really, really ugly, that totally took up my time and made it all about themselves. And I don't care what the situation is. I don't care what, professionalism is obviously extremely important, and I'm very diplomatic and I try to be fair. But at the end of the day, when you're taking away from me being a mom, it's not a thing.
No.
It does it like, oh, that's it. End of
Yeah,
conversation. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like it's
No.
irrelevant. It just
It
stops right there. Like the minute
exactly.
that you're taking from that, it's dead in the water. So I mean, go ahead and blow up my DMs and tell me how you feel. Like that's totally fine, but it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
And so that went on for like a whole good day. And at the end of the day, I was like, I took my $5, walked to my neighbor's house because I live in a very small little town, and
Yeah.
was like, "Girl, you got to smoke?" And she was like, "Yeah, what the heck?" And I enjoyed that cigarette so much. I was like, "This is great."
And I think, like, that's what I really feel like my sobriety. I practice abstinence in my sobriety. I do
Okay,
not
yeah.
advocate for it in everyone's case, and I
Mhm.
think that, allowing yourself to enjoy something once in a while isn't shameful. It shouldn't be, at least. And so it really is just all depends on how you live. And I think
Yes.
enjoying that cigarette, I think that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. The way that I've kind of like rationalized it in my mind is that if because caffeine can be looked at the same, or a drink can be looked at the same. It all depends on what your original DOC was. But if that cigarette keeps me sober for another 24 off of everything else, then I can
And
justify it all
that's
the way to the wood pile and back.
exactly, like, I still like, I smoke weed,
Hmm.
and that's been a really huge part of my healing process, is because it kept me sober exactly for another 24 hours. It kept me away from caving, and now, yeah, now I enjoy it a lot more.
Yes. Yeah, I just learned about this called Cali Sober.
California sober.
Yeah, it was like a whole thing.
Yep.
My friend Josh Catlett, he's like a massive recovery influencer, and we had this massive debate about what it means to be sober. And finally, I was just like, you know what, man? Like, honestly, if you're, like, if whatever you're doing isn't hurting not that it's not hurting anybody, but like if you are comfortable and it's keeping you alive, and you're, not where you were, then like just smoke the weed, man.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
like just smoke the weed. It's a beautiful plant anyways, honestly. Like yeah, I don't even know but you know what, then I go down the road, because then I'm like, but it's just a plant, blah 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 blah. So I kind of got to be careful about how I go there. But yeah, no, I can absolutely respect anybody that smokes weed, whether they're sober or whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just forgot that we were like live on Facebook for a second, and we were just not just two people talking.
No worries. Honestly, like, I have actually forgotten that a couple times. I'm like being recorded right now.
Oh, it's so funny. Oh, okay. Well, on that note, is there
Yeah.
anything that you would like to bring up, or that you would like the people to know, or my lovely pine needles or family or friends to know? I am going to be using some of this stuff promotionally, and I'm going to take it and cut it up into tiny little pieces. So if there's something that you'd love to say.
Honestly, I think I've given you a couple nice little sound bites.
Yes, you
And
have.
I don't really have much more. I This was amazing, and I'm so happy that I got to bring my strange and unique perspective to your audience.
It has absolutely been such an honor. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I feel like I just went through a counseling session. Yeah, it was an absolute privilege. You have so much fun this season. And if you're
You.
interested in coming out and hanging out with me for Decimate Metal Fest, please let me know, because I would be happy, happy, happy to have you.
You know what? I'll give it some thought.
Okay, sounds good.
Cheers.
Everybody on the internet land, thank you so much for tuning in. Um, I think that's all we have this evening. Take care. Stay safe. Till then.